everybody. Good Lord, that is enough of that music. Unhappy Thursday. How the hell are all of you? Coming to you live once again from our humble abode here in Fairfield Township, Ohio. This is the Unhappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio and part of the Green Legion Radio family. Thank you for joining us tonight from wherever you may be and whatever device you're using to stream us on YouTube. So please pull up a chair, turn up the volume, use the company dime if, God forbid, you're still stuck at work. Crack open a cold one if that's your thing on a Thursday night, and let's try to have some fun as we put an end to this, as Lou Mancini just said, Friday Eve, and look forward to the upcoming weekend. Yeah, David Califoot and Lou Mancini in the room. How the hell are you fellas tonight? What? Oh, somebody just stepped on the dog. Right through this window right here, there are quesadillas being made. So I apologize for any background noise you might hear with that, but we are a family of five, so dinner does have to happen, and it is roughly dinner time. We do tend to eat a little later here, but that's just kind of how things go sometimes. So the dog just got a treat that he's not supposed to get because last time he was at the vet called him Fat Puppy. But he had to get a treat because Brooklyn tried to step on his throat. So that's what's going on here. How are all of you? Let's do the business stuff real quick, and then we'll get into Boner of the Week, and then we'll look forward to our guest joining us. So, everyone, we are proudly sponsored by Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia. Just minutes away from the sports complex, Cheerleaders brings you the area's most beautiful women on 5 different stages. Open 7 days a week from noon until 2 a.m. and until 4 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. For group information, call 215-467-1980 and reserve a private booth and party package. Also offering free parking, a full menu, daily drink and food specials, and a premium selection of cigars and a cigar lounge. If you're not headed to the ballpark but looking for a place to watch your favorite sporting event, head on out to Cheerleaders and enjoy the 75-foot HD TV wall as well as HD TV screens throughout the club. Once again, folks, that's Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia. Call 215-467-1980 for your group and party planning. Lou Mancini, what do you got here? You didn't take a bite. Oh, God. Can we not? I mean, I purposely did not watch any of that debate. And, I don't think it's fun to laugh about for sure. But I mean, I on purpose did not watch any of that debate. I had no interest at all. And it sounds like it was every bit the disaster that I assumed it would be, right? On both parties, which is not a shock. Look, overall, man, we deserve better candidates. This whole thing's a joke. To the rest of the world, and this is where I'm going to end it with the politics here, to the rest of the world, our nation's politics are the equivalent of the blue-collar comedy tour, okay? They all laugh at us. Like, oh, look, a democracy. I can't with any of them. They're all a mess. I would tell you if you're tuning in on Facebook or Twitter, but that's just not going to happen right now. Samantha, Super Sam, her and I were on the phone the other night trying to get the Facebook reconnected, and for some reason, there's just something going on there that we just can't figure out right now. So it's just going to be YouTube. Twitter, or X as it's called now, is being really kind of douchey. They want you to have like a premium subscription in order to stream from StreamYard there. We're not going to do that, guys. I mean, we've got, not to sound arrogant or whatever, but the Green Legion, we don't need to have a premium account. So it's just an expense it's just not necessary, at least not right now anyways. So we're going to be on YouTube, folks, until the Facebook stuff gets figured out. If it gets figured out, this is it. It's going to be YouTube. No, Dave, no more elephant porn. The Green Legion, page was restored to us a few months ago. But for some reason, since that time, there has been some problem with StreamYard connecting to it. And so that's why you're only getting us on YouTube. Well, that and of course X is now forcing everyone who wants to stream, at least via StreamYard, anyways. Excuse me, they want you to have a premium account, which, like I said, we're just not going to do. So it's YouTube. And look, to be honest with you, we were recommending that everyone would just use YouTube to watch us, anyways, right? I mean, you heard all through the few years of baseball brunch. Chris would tell everyone that. You've heard Quimby say it. You've heard me say it. You hear it on the pregame shows. We've been pushing the YouTube channel anyways. So here we are. It's YouTube. All right. And that's just going to be what it is. It is a bit of a bummer because, this show, just take this show for an example. We were getting probably somewhere along the lines of, I don't know, 1,500 viewers. Not live, but like overall, like when I would look at it week over week, on just on X, and then Facebook was another 3, 4, 5, sometimes 600, and then YouTube would have its its number, and that number really fluctuates. The YouTube number, sometimes it's like 15 to 20, sometimes it's 40 to 50. It just depends. So we're YouTube. And that's just going to be the way it is. So I'm glad to have you guys here. And yeah, scrolling along the bottom of the screen, as always, trips.greenlegion.com. Get signed up if there's some place you want to go. We are headed to New Orleans next week. Wife and I fly out on Friday. And we will be there through the weekend. We come back on Tuesday. So anybody heading to New Orleans, you'll get your opportunity to see Unhappy Gilmore and Mrs. Unhappy Gilmore in person. What? Oh, she's outside. All right, that's enough out of you, Peanut Gallery. She's whispering. It's my daughter. She's whispering in there because she doesn't want people to hear her voice on the show. But yeah, so that's the deal. We're headed to New Orleans next week. Birds at Tampa the week after. Then it's the bye week. In a month and a half from now, the Birds will come here to Cincinnati. Another opportunity to hang out with me if you're looking for a place to go. It's a little bit less expensive of a trip. And I get it. Look, late October, nobody takes a look at their calendar and says, "Boy, I really got to have a long weekend in Cincinnati." But there's worse places to go. Like Memphis. So if you're looking to jump on a trip and you want to hang out with me, those would be the two to go on. But I recommend you get on one regardless of what it is, whether you're coming here, whether you're going to New Orleans, whether you are. And I think here, Cincinnati, I know we were down to just a few hotel spots left. So it's selling pretty well. I have busted my butt to sell a bunch of tailgate. So, and big thanks to my Midwest Eagles Nest group here for showing out. I know a lot of folks picked up the tailgate and in some cases pep rally, and I know at least a few cases where it was pep rally, tailgate, and ticket. So, big thank you to all of them for that. Yeah, other than that, we're still always looking for sponsors. That's going to start being a post in my group here as well. Back porch just really isn't a thing right now. So as far as sponsorship, so we've got a few other folks in our group that own businesses out here, like to broaden the horizons of the Green Legion. And we're trying to, let's crack into the Cincinnati market, right? But if anybody in Philly knows any small business owners that would like some extra exposure, small monetary commitment for a year to be reviewed at the end of said year, not to ask for any kind of increase, but just to make sure that the partnership is mutually beneficial. And that would get you advertisement live reads on any of our shows. So that's Quimby on Green Legion Radio on Saturdays. That's this show, just a podcast. That's also our pregame shows prior to every Birds game. And then advertisement across our social media channels as well. Take a look. Let us know. Reach out to me. And we'll try to set something up. All right. Who else do we got here? This right now is just David Lou back and forth. Lou Mancini, YouTube is the only way to follow Green Leaves. Yeah, as far as the radio stuff goes, this is the spot, and we've been pushing it for a while. So we appreciate you, buddy. Lou Mancini, David Elliott is growing like a weed. California listeners are pointing. Ugh, God, Lord have mercy. Josh, I hear you, buddy. I will, and I need to remember to do that. Thank you for the reminder text message. I know you're not in here commenting, but thank you for the reminder text message because I did forget. But I will do that. Thank you. All right, let's get to the boner of the week. Wrap that up real quick and be ready for our guests to come in. So no, Dave. Well, it's kind of Deshaun Watson, but not just Deshaun Watson. It's really more about the Cleveland Browns. I've got two, and they're both football teams, and they're both related to week one. We will start with the Cleveland Browns, who, let's be honest there. It's a disaster, right? I mean, look, they were missing both their tackles. I understand. They're missing Nick Chubb. I understand. Dallas comes in there. It's a nice sunny day, no weather, no wind. It's a perfect setup for the Cowboys to go up there and just absolutely roll Cleveland, and that's what happened. I don't think anyone should really be shocked. It sucks because you never want Dallas to win, but nobody should really be shocked. The bigger story continues to be Deshaun Watson. And as far as the Browns in general with their relationship with Deshaun Watson. So Watson goes out there against a Dallas pass rush that's pretty rough without his two tackles. But he goes 24 of 45. 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and he got sacked 6 times. Folks, I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. The Deshaun Watson that you saw play football for the Houston Texans is not coming back. That guy is gone. Whether it be because of the injuries, missing the time to do the injuries and suspensions and all this off-the-field crap, no matter whatever the case is, that guy's not coming back. And here the Browns sit holding on. And the reason why they are part of the boner of the week is that contract is likely going to go down as the biggest albatross in league history, at least to this point. Right? There's some other, you had bad trades. You've had bad contracts. You've had busts in the draft. This is a whole different animal. This guy, he's completely sinking your franchise. And they just kicked the can down the road for another year. So, and that whole contract, all $230 million is guaranteed. The only way they can get out of it is if somehow this latest allegation against Deshaun Watson proves to be something that was not prior disclosed, or that it's deemed conduct detrimental to the league, the team, something like that. Something that puts him in violation of said contract. Personally, I find it pretty, does anybody else feel like it's like, wow, they came out there, they laid an egg, Watson was terrible. And I mean, the next morning, here's this story breaking about yet another allegation. This one more serious, right on the heels of that awful performance. I listen sometimes on my way to work to it's a show called Two Pros and a Cup of Joe on Fox Sports. It's Brady Quinn, LeVar Arrington, and a guy named Jonas Knox. And Brady Quinn immediately called it friendly fire. He's like, this is the Browns just trying to sink this guy. I can see it. I mean, why wouldn't you want to try and get out from under that? But yeah, congratulations to the Cleveland Browns. This just continues to get worse. And then to add insult to injury to the Browns, the guy who they completely shunned, completely treated like crap, and showed him the door after he gave them their first playoff win, and I don't even remember how many years, over the Steelers, mind you. Baker Mayfield goes out on Sunday, throws for 290 yards and 4 touchdowns. Hey, you talk about an epic disaster for the Browns on Sunday and Monday morning. The other part of our boner of the week, and this one will give us all great joy. No, Jerry Jones is not boner of the week, Keenan. Hell no. I hope that man lives forever. I'm a huge fan of the Dak contract. So I can't then give him a negative award when I'm a fan of it, right? However, we can give it to the New York Giants, who decided that a couple of years ago that they were going to pay Daniel Jones instead of paying Saquon Barkley. So he drafted Daniel Jones 6th overall in the 2019 draft. I was there in Nashville, laughed hysterically, and then I went drinking. He's a bust. He's an absolute bust. Yep, Lou Mancini, nail on the head, brother, as usual. Daniel Jones is a bust. He had bust written all over him the minute he was drafted. Not only did you not recognize it and get yourself away from it, you doubled down on it. And you doubled down on it while in the process not paying the best player on your team, Saquon Barkley. And then what happens this weekend? So Friday night, these Giants fans, those of them that had Peacock, got to watch the Packers and Eagles as Saquon Barkley was the number one reason why we won that football game. Easily. Nearly 130 total yards, 3 total touchdowns. Easily the number one reason why we won that game. They wake up Saturday morning. Those of them that didn't watch it, they had to see highlights, and they're ready to throw up. They were all over social media, barfing all over themselves. And then they're going to head out there Sunday against a Minnesota Vikings team that's now quarterbacked by Sam Darnold. And they get beat 28-6 in New York. While Daniel Jones, a.k.a. Blues Clues, goes 22 of 42, 186 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. One of them is a pick six that was an absolutely horrendous play. And he gets sacked 5 times. Saquon Barkley is the reason the Eagles win. Daniel Jones continues to be a complete bust, disaster that they are stuck with for all of this season. They can get out of that contract after this year. They still take a hit, but not nearly as bad as if they tried to get out last year. It does not get any worse for Giants fans than it is right now. And I've got close friends of mine that are Giants fans. And so I wasn't texting. Look, if it's Giants fans who I can't stand, then I'll jump all over them. But these are guys like, you have my friend Sam, who's been on the show a couple of times before. Very close friend of mine. I've known him for, God, what is it? 30 years, 32 years at the 32 years at this point. So it's hard for me to really jump his shit. It was more asking the question like, dude, you guys are brutal. And that quarterback is awful. And I told him, I said, if I was you guys, I would just tank. And he correctly responds, tank, with a question mark. He's like, as if we have a choice. Look, all weekend long, I was posting. All Sunday, after the game and everything, I was posting everywhere. Danny Pennies, Blues Clues, with the hashtag Free Malik. Because they did draft Malik Neighbors, who I feel could be a very special receiver. The kid had 7 targets. He caught 5 of them for 66 yards. It's just a train wreck with the Giants right now. It's not like I feel bad for them or anything. But to not give them the boner of the week along with Cleveland, they have to be out of my mind. So there's your boner of the week this week. You've got the New York Giants for their attachment to Daniel Jones. Did you guys see the video of the fans waiting for the players to come out? And when Jones came out, they're yelling Danny Pennies at him. Don't think next game they won't be there throwing pennies at him. This is New York. But yeah, they're attached to Daniel Jones by their own doing. Saquon Barkley is wearing midnight green because they decided that he was more valuable. Jones was more valuable. There's your boner of the week, folks. All right, right on cue at 7 o'clock. Folks, we do have a guest this week. All right. I did tease it the other day and again this afternoon.
He is the nephew of legendary NFL head coach Dick Vermeil. Please give a big Green Legion Radio welcome to Mike Vermeil, who joins us now live. Mike, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
All right. Great. Good to see you. Good to hear from you. Appreciate you coming on. This is a treat for us for sure. Just to give you a little background on us, Green Legion wise, I don't know if you've heard of us before. We are Philadelphia based, but we started. We still fan experience, so away trips, home tailgates, all that sort of thing. And then the Green Legion Radio thing kind of spawned from that a few years ago, and has taken off to the point where they can afford to have a schmuck like me do a podcast. So and here we are in my humble abode here doing that. But it's a fun time. It's a niche group here. Really great bunch of guys. So welcome.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah. How's everything going on your end?
Good. Can't complain. Same old stuff. Working.
Yeah.
Gamecocks won last week. Knocked off the UK Wildcats, so that was good.
So are you more a college fan than an NFL fan now, or how does?
I've kind of gone back and forth, as a kid, with Dick coaching the Eagles, and then there was that long break, then the Rams, and then the Chiefs. When he was coaching, I was a big fan of those teams. Right after the Eagles, I lived in the Bay Area during the Bill Walsh era, so it was awful hard not to be a 49ers fan during that time. Really, but when that kind of came to an end, and before Dick went back to the Rams, I was kind of more of a college guy, yeah.
Sure. And out there, still in the Bay, I would guess what? USC, UCLA.
Yeah. I kept on UCLA for a while, and then we moved back here in Cincinnati in '97. So it kind of took on, the schools back here. And Lou Holtz was at South Carolina when we first moved back here. My son was really young, and I was always kind of a Lou Holtz fan. And that's how we kind of got started being South Carolina fans. And then he ended up going to school there.
So I've got a comment. So Lou Mancini, one of our guys here, says Mike, and he gives the fist pump. And then I've got another friend, Keaton, here. Mike, I love your uncle. Watched him take my Eagles from turds to a Super Bowl in my high school years and slightly beyond.
That's awesome.
That was the big. Yeah, that was the big thing when the Birds had. Now I was, you're talking. I was not born yet when when your uncle was when he got hired by the Birds.
Mm-hmm.
But the big talk there was, is this West Coast guy going to fit in with, the tough Philadelphia East-Northeast blue-collar crowd?
Sure.
And then the retort to that was always, well, he beat Woody Hayes in the Rose Bowl. Like, I think he could probably handle it. So how did that, and I don't know how old you were at the time, so, what memories you've got of that, but.
Yeah, he would let's see. So they won the Rose Bowl at UCLA in '76. So I was 10 years old at that time, born 1966. So I remember the Rose Bowl and some of the games and stuff. We went and watched them play at Cal one time, but it was so different back then. There wasn't 24/7 sports, no ESPN. So yeah, I was pretty little when he was at UCLA, but maybe. I forget, maybe second or third year at the Eagles, I'm in middle school age, and he would bring me back for a few weeks during the summertime, and I'd work at a training camp as a ball boy. So that was just,
nice.
It was incredible. Yeah. I mean, what middle school kid doesn't want to do something like that?
Man.
Yeah, it was an awesome experience. It's some of the, just great memories of my childhood, some of the most vivid memories of my childhood. The first year, I think we were talking on the phone the other day, the first year was at Widener College, where at least in theory, in Invincible, it was supposed to be there at Widener. It's not actually where it was filmed, but there for a year and then on to Westchester for a couple of years. Just it was awesome. I knew all the players, lived right there in the dorms with them on campus during training camp.
Wow.
And so it unfortunately, again, it wasn't, there was no NFL package, NFL direct TV ticket and all that stuff. So we got to see maybe three, when they were not great, maybe a couple of games a year. When they got, started playing better, maybe 3-4 games, maybe 5. And that was about it. But
yeah, I get it. So you're in there. So that's when Papali is there.
Yeah, yeah. Not being a Philadelphia, not living out there, I didn't understand the impact he had on the community. Well, of
Yeah.
course, I was a middle school kid, but so coming out from California, I had heard the story, but really didn't understand the significance of it until much later. Yeah,
Well, so of course the movie, sensationalizes it, right? It's, that he was actually invited because he had played semi-pro ball and all that stuff. He was like a private workout,
right.
but he was, yeah, like he was. It was like, so I get a really good friend of mine now runs a tree service down in Tampa, but he's from Philly, and he's
Uh-huh.
about 10 years older than me, and so he's a kid when all this is going on, and he says, I don't. He goes, I don't remember all of it. He goes, I just remember like his parents and like his uncles and stuff were just like losing their mind over it. It's like, dude, it's like a real life Rocky running around here. I mean, it had to be a really, really cool experience.
Yeah, yeah, it was cool. I know that Vince and my uncle are still very close to this day. People ask, not so much anymore because he's been out of the game for quite a while, but I get the question, what's Dick like? Because there's so much in the media, and then later with the Rams and Chiefs, all the crying and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, well, whatever you saw on TV, whether it's interview on the sidelines, that's who he is all day long, every day. There's not a coach Dick and at home Dick. He's just who he is. Whether he's with me, he's with his players, he's always the same.
He's just the same guy. I love hearing stuff like that too, because I think there's too often where these guys either they feel like they have to, or they do it to like put on a fake image or whatever.
Yeah.
And we're a podcast here, so speak freely. This is not on like an actual radio station. A guy that comes to mind is like a Dabo Sweeney at Clemson. I think he smells fake all over him to me. I don't like the guy. Anybody who comes out and he's got to try to profess to you that he's that great of a human, usually some not so great behind the scenes somewhere along the way.
Yeah,
it would not surprise me if Deshaun Watson was doing that same nasty stuff at Clemson. Dabo was just kind of smoothing it over. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, being a Gamecock fan, kind of comes part and parcel, not liking that school in the upstate. But
Sure.
He's had a ton of success there, obviously. And there's in any sport or business you're in, there's obviously more than one way to skin a cat. And his way worked pretty damn well for a while. He obviously seems to be shooting himself in the foot a little bit here with his resistance to the transfer portal. I don't know how he expects to get enough players in this day and age, but
it's just not going to happen. Like you said, that's why Nick Saban got out. It's like, I'm not dealing with this.
Yeah,
I mean, it's these coaches now. I honestly believe in all of sports, and you tell me what you think, especially because you're a big college fan. I think that the job of a collegiate head coach is probably one of, if not the most difficult in all of sports now, because not only are you having to recruit all year long outside, but you're now also having to continue to recruit kids that are already on your roster for fear of losing them to transfer portal. And I think you see guys like a Nick Saban who are getting out because they just don't want to deal with it.
No, I totally agree with you. Yeah, it's such a different environment. I'm trying to be an optimist about the whole thing. I think the transfer portal basically it was a good idea. So many kids got stuck in a backup role and ended up missing out on years they could have been playing somewhere else. And so I'm all for it from that perspective. Unfortunately, the timing you put it together with the NIL thing, and it's just the Wild West out there right now. And I really worry that schools, schools like South Carolina, who kind of have perennially been a middle of the pack, in one of the Power 5 conferences, that they're going to end up feeder schools for the big places, and you're seeing schools lose players that they really would like to stay there, but it's hard to pass up the NIL money that comes from transferring to a place like Oregon or something like that. But
or Ohio State or whatever. I agree. And Wild West, that's the exact way I have talked about it on this show.
Yeah,
I've called it the Wild West. I am not against the kids getting paid. I'm not, because I think for decades, everyone else made millions or billions on the backs of these kids who got
absolutely,
nothing.
for sure.
So I'm cool with them getting paid. There needs to be some sort of cap not on what a guy can get paid, but how much can be spent by a school or by boosters or whatever. So all this has done is created a funnel for all of that booster money that they tried to keep out of the game forever.
For sure.
And it is a disaster. The haves and the have-nots are going to continue to separate drastically. To your point, like a South Carolina, where they're middle of the pack in a conference like that, and they're not going to compete with a Georgia, with a Bama, or even with a Tennessee. I mean, they've got massive boosters down there.
And I think the impact's going to be in so many ways. Being a younger coach, like Shane Beamer at South Carolina, to use him as an example, trying to establish yourself as a new head coach while building up a program, it makes it even so much more difficult. Because that's one of the the good coaches that are in those a little bit smallerish programs. The guys that can recruit and bring in the talent that the other schools have missed and passed on and things like that. That's one of the advantages they have. Now they go get them for a year or two, build them up, and then they're gone, right? And they're at Oregon or Alabama or whatever it may be.
Yeah, it's like a farm system.
Yeah,
it's and I don't like it. I'm not against transfer either, but I think more along the lines of what you were saying. Like, I think it started out as a good thing. These guys used to lose a year of eligibility when they transferred.
Right.
And they don't lose anything now.
Yeah.
And they may want to think about going back to you can get out, or maybe you're able to do it once, right?
Yeah. I think
without losing eligibility.
Yeah. I think most things, whether it's sports or politics or whatever, it will be on one way, on too far one side, and then we swing too far the other way. And then eventually it kind of comes a little bit back to center. And my guess is that in a few years, 5 years from now, there'll be some rules in place to try to create more of a level playing field, so that make it more fair for the schools that are never going to kind of generate the NIL funds that school like Texas or Alabama will year in, year out.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, it needs to, or this is going to get real bad.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
I mean, the TV contracts control everything. I mean, look at the SEC and the Big Ten right now.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I heard today that the Pac-12 is going to add 4 more teams starting in 2026.
I saw that.
That still only gives them 6 schools.
Yeah.
You're not a power conference at 6 schools.
I know.
The death of a conference is not something I'm a fan of. Especially a conference with that much history. I don't like that the Big Ten stretches from Rutgers all the way to USC now. It's weird.
That's so strange.
It's so odd.
For people in California, me growing up in California, that there literally is no Pacific Conference anymore. That's so weird. And watching a matchup last week, like Cal, did they play Clemson last week, or who was it? No, Auburn, Cal and Auburn last week.
Auburn,
it was so odd, and I really feel bad for the the smaller sports that aren't the big ticket sports, making those kind of travel, those trips, midweek, trying to stay in school and take tests and study and stuff.
Brutal, because their travel accommodations aren't nearly on the level of what your football players are getting, right? I mean, these guys
I can imagine, yeah.
They're like from the movie Major League, where that plane pulls up and they're like putting duct tape on the wing, Indian Express sort of thing.
That reminds me of a story that you mentioned the airplanes when I would be working back there at training camp. It was Eagles would travel on Piedmont Airlines. They would rent a plane, and I don't remember if they were 707s or what they were, but it was 3 seats on either side, row down the middle. And I don't remember where we were going, but back then at training camp, there was 100 guys. There was a lot of players in training camp, and everybody's on the plane. They got all the equipment loaded in and everything, coaches, staff, doors are closed, and they're like, doors open back up. Everybody's got to get out of the plane. We're like, what's going on? The weight was all out of balance.
Too much weight.
Yeah. And so then they loaded it differently, and it was like offensive lineman in first all the way to the back, defensive lineman in, and it went heavier to lighter as you went forward in the plane. It was so funny.
Oh my God.
And it's so weird. I was thinking about this today. I thought those guys were so old, being I don't know how old I was, 12 or 11 years old when I was there. And looking back on it, they were kids, they're in their early 20s. And a lot of them had not flown that much. And when they did that and made everybody get out and get back on the plane in this order, and the plane going to tip and all this, so they were freaking. A lot of them were just nervous as heck, It was so funny.
Oh, that is awesome. So I've got another comment here from Lou Mancini. Your uncle was amazing. I was 15 or 16 when they went to the Super Bowl. Add in the Vince Papale twist, and the legend really took off. And then Dave Califoot chimes in. Hey, Mike, he's got a question. Who was the coolest player to hang out with, and why?
Oh, God, that's hard.
That's got to be a big list, man. That's got, because it's not always someone you'd think of right away. It's usually like a reserve, backup lineman, something like that.
So many good guys on that team. And, I work in industry. I'm in the defense contracting industry. And I've always felt, I was in automotive for a long time and another small local company. And I've always kind of felt that people tend to hire people that they think they'll get along with, right? Nobody wants to go to work all day, spend all day with somebody that they don't like. And
Right.
I don't know that for certain that had an impact on who, my uncle brought into Philadelphia, but there were a lot of really good guys there. Stan Walters was really, really good to my brother and I when we were back there. He ended up, I can't remember how many years he made the Pro Bowl, but with just an outstanding offensive lineman. He on one side, Jerry Sizemore on the other. He was super good to us. Starting, offensive lineman for the Eagles, and he drove around in a Volkswagen bus. It was funny. Yeah, he took us over to his house one time. He didn't live far from Westchester. He was a really good guy. We really liked Wilbur Montgomery. He was very nice to us. Super, super quiet guy. Very nice. The defensive line guys were awesome. Claude Humphrey, who was old at that time, came out of retirement to come back and play for Marion Campbell, who was the defensive coordinator. Was really, really nice to my brother and I. Charlie Johnson, the nose tackle, Dennis Harrison, he was tackle, right? Defensive tackle. Carl Harrison, who ended up coming back and coaching defensive line for Dick at the Rams. All super nice guys. But so I mentioned on the plane, it was 3 seats aisle and 3 seats.
That story cracks me
and
up.
Those seats are narrow. It's still like today, right?
And those guys are huge.
They're massive human beings. And so Charlie Johnson and Carl Harrison. So as you can see, I'm a little bit on the fair skin side. I have no hair now, but I had a long blonde California blonde hair back then. And so they used to joke around. They called me Al for albino.
Jeez.
When we would fly somewhere, they would get me to sit in between them, an 11, 12-year-old kid, so they could have some room. And I'd be sitting there like this between the two of them on either side. They were super nice guys. Claude Humphrey was just a phenomenal guy. Harold Carmichael was a real nice guy. Leroy Harris, who was the fullback at the time. I'm trying to think. I really can't point to anybody and say like, that guy was, There was no what you would consider like the modern typical pro athlete kind of attitude. I'm sure probably there was, and I just didn't see it because I was a kid. But no, just a bunch of really good guys.
Yeah, so no diva type stuff going on. I guess and to be honest with you, it really wasn't. These guys were tougher back then, in my opinion. Anyways, They also didn't make all that this god awful amount of money that these guys make now.
No,
it wasn't. And some of these guys, you're working after the season still, when you look
Absolutely.
at the 70s and stuff, your backup guys, your starters were probably able to take care of things, but like the guys didn't get paid like that. They had to do other things to make ends meet,
Absolutely. Yeah. It was so, my I mentioned my younger brother. I have 2 younger brothers. One of them would go back to the training camp with me also. And he was complaining how bad some of the, the first games of the season are. That these, some of these teams just they're not getting their starters enough reps in the preseason. It's different now. The players are in shape 12 months a year. They show up, ready to go. It was not necessarily the case back then. They would show up overweight, and I can remember a lot of the big guys, linemen. They would, the old school windbreakers. where it was snaps up the front and you had elastic at the sleeve stuff. They would put that on underneath their gear. So they
try to sweat.
They'd put the half shirt on, that on, and then the pads and everything. And I can remember, they'd be running drills and stuff, and then, whoever would come out and they'd take the elastic and open it up, and it was like opening a garden hose. It would just shooting out. But, the smell. And it was another thing different. Probably a third of them chewed Red Man tobacco. In middle practice, a big old hunk of that stuff hanging to Bill Berge. All caught in his beard and all that stuff. It was so different back then.
Which the tobacco. I mean, you always translate that with baseball, right?
Right.
It kind of makes more sense for baseball. There's obviously a lot more standing around.
Yeah. Right. You can sit there. You're just spitting all over. Football, it just seems odd because you're really getting after it, man. Like especially linemen, just with this big thing. Like how many times they must have inhaled that thing?
Oh, and you know what Philadelphia is like in August. It's a billion degrees, 1,000% humidity. It's like, let me just stick this hunk of tobacco in my mouth.
Oh my God! Could you imagine? Oh,
like Frank Lemaster, he would always have that in there. Another guy that had the beard. It was good. The training camp. It probably still is. Is it open? Can you go watch training camp?
You can go watch. Yeah. Well, they actually do. They'll actually do practices at the link now.
Oh wow!
And you can go and watch the team practice on the actual field. They do that. I don't know how many times. I mean, obviously, I don't live there, so But no, you can go view practice. I don't know if it's the same as like what you're talking about, or like we saw depicted in the movie.
Yeah,
where it's just these fans just shaking the fence as your uncle's walking by and everything. Right?
I was going to say probably in the link they don't let him bring kegs in because I can.
I would imagine not
at Westchester. I'll never forget it. There was a group of 4 or 5 guys. They literally carried a keg in, set it in the bleachers, and sat there and drank beers and watched practice. It was hysterical.
They let him bring a keg of beer.
Yeah, nobody said anything.
Oh my God! Could you imagine?
That was funny.
You imagine if they let him do that, holy smokes! And these are the same people that gave the 700 level its nickname, at the vet, right? So let's just let them bring a keg of beer to an open practice. Holy smokes! That's wild. Different times, though, right? I mean,
very different times.
Keenan says it ain't the same. It's all the commercial, all the money spent now. It obviously makes it more accessible to us. And all that sort of thing. But it does have its disadvantages too, where things have gone so corporate that you don't get that kind of feel anymore, right? Where you can't just walk up and, you're a chain link fence away from just hollering and yelling at all kinds of hell at them, right?
Yeah.
You don't get those opportunities anymore. Well, except for Giants fans on Sunday when Daniel Jones was leaving. That was hysterical. They were calling him Danny Pennies.
Oh, God.
That cracked me up.
Yeah. There's, people are still people, though. Dick, I forget how many years it was. Well, quite a while after he left the Chiefs, because it was the first year Mahomes in the playoffs in Kansas City. I took my son and we went over there to the playoff game against the Texans where they got down, was it 28-3 or whatever?
Yeah, they were down big.
Yeah, but Dick got us pregame field passes. And so we're down on the field before the game. It's an hour and a half before the game time. And we're hanging out, and the players have been in and out. But that was when J.J. Watt was still with the Texans. And this is not Texas. This is in Kansas City. He went around the inside of the stadium, right up against the edge of the stands, about 10 yards back, and played catch with every kid all the way around the stadium. It was such a class act, and it was very genuine. As an adult, you could tell when somebody's kind of faking it, but it's very genuine, and it was really nice to see that there still is, some of that in pro sports.
And he's got that kind of reputation where he's just a good dude.
For sure.
It's just like it almost feels like a Jason Kelsey, where it feels like you could just almost run into him at a bar and have a beer with him. You know what I mean? That type of guy.
Yeah.
Although Jason Kelsey's on a different level. That guy's a national treasure.
He is all over the place now.
He is fantastic. We've talked about it on here for quite some time. No doubt in my mind, if he ran for mayor of Philadelphia right now, he would win that in a landslide.
That's
I mean,
too funny.
he is just so beloved. And now it's like a national thing. Like everybody loves Jason.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even more so than Travis. To look at Travis, they're like, you're just Taylor's boyfriend.
Well, I'm sure you heard the story on their podcast when Travis was talking about when Andy Reid had Dick down there to to dress the team, and he was giving a speech and getting all excited and stuff, and then talking about how tough guys are, and this pointed out a couple guys in with the Chiefs, and then he looked at Travis. He's like, Kelsey, where's Kelsey? Where's Kelsey? He's like, your brother is so tough, and Travis is like, I know, man, I love him too. It's so
well,
funny.
I mean, there's that documentary where it was on Netflix or whatever, Kelsey, right, where it talks about both of them, but it's mostly about Jason, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so there's the one story where he is, I don't know if it's kindergarten or preschool or whatever the hell grade it was, where him and another kid were poking each other in the forehead with a spork, right? You remember sporks, the plastic spoon?
Yeah.
They're just poking each other with to see who could take it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Jason got all like pissed and took it and just stuck it right in the kid's forehead. It's like, what is the level of aggression? I mean, his parents, Donna and I forget the father's name. I mean, could you imagine, having to raise those two? There's the other story where Jason like power bombed Travis through the kitchen floor.
Yeah.
Like through it.
That's so funny. Yeah, so my dad is he passed away about 3-4 months ago. But
I'm sorry to hear that. Mike.
Thank you. Yeah, 86 years old. He had a good life, but he was 11 months younger than my Uncle Dick, and so I mean they basically kind of grew up almost like twins. But
sure.
And it was, if you've ever watched any of the NFL film stuff on my uncle, they did a newer one, when he was with right after Rams, I think, after the Super Bowl, and then one that was done earlier, so it was more focused on his time with the Eagles and before. But it was blue collar household for sure. My grandfather, their dad, had in a barn behind the house there in Calistoga, the top end of the Napa Valley. Had an auto repair business in there. When my dad was little, didn't even have a cement floor. They worked right on the dirt floor. But and so it was old school upbringing, and those types of stories like between Jason and Travis. None of my family stories are quite that physical, but that was talking about how vivid the memories are and good memories are that I have of training camp. Similarly, when Dick was able to come out to California and sitting around the dinner table at my grandparents' house with him and their younger brother Al, who now lives here in the Cincinnati area, and their big sister, my Aunt Laura, and her husband Frank, and my cousins and stuff, and just hearing all the crazy stories about when they were kids and the crazy stuff that they did. It was good. Like I said, not quite as physical, I think, as the Kelsey story, but similar in nature for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun to hear that stuff, right? I remember, when my grandparents were still around, and my great aunts and uncles and stuff, and I grew up in Connecticut. I grew up around the Bridgeport, Connecticut area.
Okay.
So my dad's side of the family was like mostly Irish. My mother's side was mostly Italian. My dad's side mostly Boston fans. My mother's side mostly New York fans. I tell people that's why they got divorced, because it just wasn't going to work, right? But so sitting around, like, with the Italian side, you would hear these stories from my grandfather, his brother, and two sisters, and the cousins and everything when they were young. Now, when you're a kid, and you're like, you look at these people as like they hung the moon, right? And then you get to be like in your late teens and your early 20s, and you're sitting around after the holiday dinner, and you're having a beer with them and stuff, and they start going into these stories, and you're looking at them like, you did what? You just don't picture it when you're a kid, and then you get older and you realize, well, they were adults once. They were young adults once too, and did stupid stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
They used to tell me all the time, I wouldn't be able to give you this wisdom if I wasn't an idiot too. So I get it. There's a lot of fun stories there. Lou Mancini asks, Mike, did you get to hang out with the Rams or Chiefs players as well? Or was that kind of
I did not. That was especially at the Rams. Well, and the Chiefs also. I was, my wife and I had young family. Our kids were little. It's relatively close to Cincinnati. It's not too long of a drive to get over to St. Louis, but kids are little, funds are short. We didn't have a lot of opportunity to get over there. My brother and I did get over finally to a game there at in St. Louis. And everything they said about them on the artificial turf, it was the truth. I had been in a lot of games on the field before, of course, working in training camp for the Eagles, but the noise in that dome, those guys, 280, 325 pounds running at you across the field, the sound, it was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll bet. What was it? The RCA Dome? Is that what that was called?
What
In
did they
St.
call
Louis?
it back then? I honestly forget what they called it back then. It's a little bit of a weird stadium. From the outside, it looked kind of like Rupp Arena down in Lexington. It didn't really look like it was a stadium. And then you got inside and you're like, oh, here's a whole football field.
No, I was wrong. RCA Dome was the home of the Indianapolis Colts. So
Yep.
I was a little off on that one.
Yeah, I can't remember what they called it, but no, unfortunately, I didn't. I got to meet some of them, twice, 3 times. He came here to Cincinnati, came here with the Rams, got together with them beforehand at you're in this area now, so down at the boathouse and had some dinner down there. It was funny, the difference between watching on TV and being around players. That's you can't really get a feel for the size. No. Like Derrick Henry, my son and I went down to Nashville when the Chiefs were there a few years ago to watch play, and of course he looks big on TV. Now, when you're sitting like 8 rows, 10 rows up in the end zone, and he's right there on the goal line, that guy is huge. Yeah. But so we get into the boathouse, and my wife and I walk in, and obviously there's a bunch of players standing there. There's all these guys, and one guy standing there. My wife's like, "What's he, a linebacker?" And I'm like, no, he's a wide receiver. I mean, he's just massive as a wide receiver. The upper body strength and stuff. It was. I'm not gonna be able to get his name out of my head now.
This was which team?
With the Rams, caught the pass against Tampa Bay in the playoffs to get the win there.
Was it Bruce Holt?
It was Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt.
Who's the other one? Zahir Hakeem? Was that the other one?
Him. I'm in total brain fart. I can't get his name out of my head. It'll come to me in 10 minutes. But I'm like, no, he's a wide receiver, and just how massive all those guys are. It's crazy.
So I Green Legion, we went to 2020. COVID's got everything shut. No fans, right?
Yep.
So no fans, can't sell fan experience. That sucked. So he ends up running a trip to Punta Cana, and I think it was like 100 of us or whatever, went down and stayed at this really nice resort, Barcelo Bavaro. If you ever go down there, recommend. It's a really nice place, nice spot. Joining us on that trip was Hollis Thomas and Lito Shepherd. So Lito's a corner, right? And you think corner, 5'10", 6 foot, 180 pounds. Yeah, so there's pictures of me standing with him. He's no taller than I am. The dude's pipes were, I mean, just like he looked like he could still step out and play.
Yeah.
And this is years after he retired. Yeah. Hollis is an enormous individual. They call him Tank for a reason. Yeah, he's not incredibly tall. He's tall, but he's not incredibly tall. But the man has literally no neck.
Yeah.
And his shoulders are probably this wide. He is just a mountain of a human.
It's totally.
And then downtown here, I ran into Pac-Man Jones some years ago.
Oh, okay.
Who is notorious for being a jackass.
Yeah.
And he was behaving as such that night. Actually, at the end of the night, he was actually picking a fight with his own bodyguard. So right. I walk up, and we had a private table at this place, and so did Pac-Man. His was the one right next to us. You're roped off, right? And I guess Pac-Man and the friend who I had who bought the table that night had a run-in before. My friend Doug is a Steelers fan. Playing for the Bengals, right? That's not a good thing. So Doug would get up and wave his terrible towel around. And Pac-Man comes over, and, he's starting to mouth off or whatever. Nothing real heated or whatever. So I stand up, and he's probably, I'm only about 5'11". He's probably 3 inches shorter than I am. But he is
just ripped, solid. Like he's just a brick, like a 5'8" brick human.
Yeah.
Shake his hand. Like everything calms down. I shake his hand. And he didn't give like the squeeze or whatever. I'm going in there trying to squeeze as hard as I can, right? Like, I got you. But you could just the phenomenal shape that these guys are in. These, these fans that you hear, I could go out there and do this.
Oh, yeah.
No, you can't.
No, definitely not. Ricky Prohl. That was the
Ricky
right
Prohl. There you go.
I knew it would come to me eventually. I loved him. He was awesome. Yeah.
Oh God, here's my friend Dave. My friend Dave Conn. He came to my son's freshman football game last night. There was an obnoxious other fan there that was just couldn't shut his mouth. So we don't need to get into that. Keenan says he met Reggie White. Absolutely the largest hand I ever shook.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, that had to be a large.
Harold, you remember Harold Carmichael, right? Not playing, but you know how tall he is.
Yes, the tallest wide receiver in the history of the league. Yeah,
he could throw the football 100 yards from end zone to end zone.
Get out of town
with those long arms. No, he could. But when my uncle introduced me to him for the first time and shook his hand, yeah, I was like probably 11 years old. It's like his fingers wrapped all the way around my hand and I felt like halfway up to my elbow.
Right. They're just huge people. I don't understand. Yeah. I don't get, like, there was that incident up in Detroit years ago, Malice at the Palace, with Ron Artest and Ben Wallace and all that, and the fans got involved. Are you out of your mind?
You don't want any part of that, yeah.
And those are basketball players, right?
Yeah.
This isn't football. It doesn't matter. He's a professional. I will tell you, I sat even a guy like Derek Jeter, who is known for being just a lanky dude, 6'3", 190 pounds.
Yeah.
His chest is this wide.
Yeah.
Like it's just flat. Like everything is just. Alex Rodriguez is an enormous human being.
You know,
I got up close to him, who I can't stand, but I got up close to him, and that is a large human.
Yeah, there are some, guys playing baseball that are smaller, but and it's so different watching them on TV compared to football players, right? Because no pads and stuff. But take a close look at like the size of their thighs and stuff like that. Oh, huge! I mean, that's where all the power comes from, right? Your thighs and the core, your glutes. But most of those guys are big individuals. Yeah.
I just don't get the thought process of fans that want to like lean over the wall and grab at him. Have you lost your mind? Like, especially if it was someone who was a little bit unstable, like in Boston when they tried to lean over and mess with Gary Sheffield,
who
was a known steroid user. Like, it's probably not the guy, right? Like, you might want to wait for a meatball to be out there,
Yeah.
Or like, you talked about the thighs and the size like that. My friend Dave that's in here, he'll tell you his favorite player is Ricky Henderson.
Yeah.
You remember watching Ricky? Ricky's legs were, my God, he was huge.
Yeah, no, he was awesome. We lived out in Phoenix for 3 years from 04 to 07. And I didn't get to meet the guy, but he was sitting a couple seats over from us at one of the spring training games out there. But everybody, Ricky Henderson. And I didn't want to go bother him to get an autograph and stuff. But man, you look at some of his stats are just beyond freakish.
Ricky was also a known jackass.
Oh, really?
When he played for the Yankees, the law office my mother was a secretary at had season tickets. So whenever they didn't want to use them, they would give them away. My mother would just grab them whenever she'd get them. My mother's 5'1". All right. So she'd bring me to the night game in the Bronx. And I'm like, what is this? This is the mid 80s when Ricky's there. So I'm like, 8 years old or whatever it is. And I would make her wait after the game for the players to come out because I was dying to get autographs. We couldn't push our way up there because I'm a scrawny little kid. My mother's 5'1". So one night we finally get up close, and Mattingly had a bad night, and he just left. He wasn't mean or anything. He just was like, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Ricky comes out, everybody explodes. Flat told me to go F myself, and I was 8 years old.
Oh,
7, 8 years old. Yeah. I'm like, Mr. Henderson, go F yourself, kid. And the Yankees took one on the chin that night, so I mean they were frustrated, but
yeah,
I mean there's just guys that are like that.
That's always disappointing. Yeah,
it is, but you would hope that for every guy like that, you also have a JJ Watt, like what you were talking about before. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
like Aaron Judge, who does that in right field. He'll
Right.
sit there and he'll play catch with a kid over the bleachers. He's turning, making sure that we're good. But he'll do that in between innings.
Yeah,
you
that's
just
cool.
hope that there's more of those.
Right.
Professional sports needs more guys like that.
Oh, for sure. And unfortunately, with the way the media operates, what do they cover mostly? All the bad stuff that happens, right?
All the bad stuff.
All the stupid things that guys do.
It'll also help if some of these guys just stop doing stupid stuff.
That would be good too.
Like Tyreek Hill.
We've seen enough of it here in Cincinnati. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, there was a guy. Wasn't Vontez perfect? I don't think there was another linebacker, Malu. I forget what the hell his name was, but he used to come up to the back porch here in Westchester, which is my spot. That's where I run my Eagles group out of here.
Okay.
He used to come up there and get ripped, snorting drunk.
God.
I mean, like falling down, hammer drunk. This is a professional football player. I think he was a linebacker. And now he can't walk.
Yeah.
Who is carrying this monstrous human being out of this place?
Yeah.
You got to call like his handlers to come get him because it's a shame when you see stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
nobody's telling you not to go have a good time, but dude, like, come on, you're out in public. I want to pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah.
So, so how long? So you were from the Bay Area.
Yep.
What brought you to here to this area? Because when you called the first time, I saw the 859 area code. I'm like, oh, he's in Northern Kentucky.
Yeah. No, I went right out of college working for Toyota out in California at a facility out there that was it was a GM Toyota joint venture, Toyota's first full scale production in North America.
Nice.
And I was there for I don't know, 6-8 years. And then Toyota opened up what at that time was their North American headquarters here in Cincinnati. Well, in Erlanger, right. The building actually straddled the Kenton and Boone County lines. But and they consolidated. I spent 3 years in purchasing. That was it. The rest of the time, I've always been on the manufacturing side and quality control. But
okay, all right, I got you. Yep.
Yeah, and I was a buyer at that time. They consolidated purchasing, and so that's how we ended up back here. We were headed out of California anyways. As much as growing up there, loved that the weather's awesome. We had our first kid, and my wife wanted to stay home with them. I wanted her to be able to. But it's awful hard to do that, making $31,000 a year in the Bay Area.
Oh my God, I couldn't imagine.
It sounds like nothing now, but he's paying $1,000 a month rent just to live there, and so it all kind of worked out, and we ended up back here.
Yeah. I tell people this all the time. One of our trips this year is obviously the Eagles play here against the Bengals, right?
Yeah.
So I've got my Birds group here. They've been great about buying the tailgate package that we offer and everything. And when I tell people, and the joke I always say is, you look at the football schedule and be like, well, let me pick an Eagles game I want to go to on the road if you lived in the Philly area. Nobody's going to look at that schedule and be like, boy, I could really use 4 days in Cincinnati at the end of October, right?
That's true. That's fair.
But I tell them, like, look, it's a little bit more charming than you want to give it credit for.
Uh-huh.
Especially when you include like Covington over there. I know Newport is getting a little sketchy now. So, but Newport, especially that time of the year, you got a lot of Oktoberfest stuff going on, breweries and whatnot. It's downtown area right by the stadiums, pretty cool.
Yep.
And the other thing I tell people that ask me if I would ever move back up to the Northeast, they tell me, you're out of your mind. There's no way. They're like, why do you love it out there that much? Like, well, first of all, this is where my wife is from here. I met her after I moved here. My kids were all born here. Yeah. We did move to Nashville for a couple of years, and then COVID kind of killed that. We had to come back. But I'm like, you could go live in Southern California where you've got this great weather and all this stuff, and I get it. You could live up near New York City where you've got everything on tap 24 hours a day. But when you want to raise a family, you want good school systems, right?
For sure.
With still enough nightlife to entertain yourself as an adult, some sports teams around, whatever.
Yeah.
The suburbs of the Cincinnati area, pretty good area to raise your kids, and it's very affordable.
Yeah, it's hard to beat. That's why we stayed. We moved here. Originally we were it's in Independence, the very south edge of the northern Kentucky area, just for about a year and a half. And then we moved into Fort Thomas, which is just a great community, great schools, great, it was just an awesome place to raise the kids. Everything in the Cincinnati area is so family focused. It was really a shock when my wife and I moved back here. How old were we at that time? I don't know, 30-ish or so.
Sure.
It was like taking like a 25, 30-year step back in time. All the things happening here still in Cincinnati, the school festivals and church festivals and all that kind of stuff that had gone away in California 20, 30 years before then. It's a really, really nice place to raise kids. 20 years ago, the entertainment options, outside the Bengals, and the Reds were lacking a little bit, but I never would have guessed in a million years that we would have seen the type of improvement that way that we've seen in OTR and here in Northern Kentucky and stuff. It's definitely not short of things to do that way. Now, if you have out of town guests for more than a couple of days, you start to run a little lean on things to do, but yeah.
Well, especially once the weather turns too. Once it gets cold,
yep,
it gets pretty slim pickings around here. You really want to come out. I would not even so much like spring, right around this time of the year.
Yes.
Where it's not,
now.
It's just gorgeous, right? Like the humidity pretty much blows out of here. And at some point it blows out of here and it doesn't come back.
Right.
But it stays 80, 85, right? It's nice and cool in the morning. It gets cool at night. So you get the Saturday night, college game, you light a fire.
Yeah.
You drink a few beers, light a fire, throw it on a projector screen or whatever.
Yep.
Get the fire put out, kids, s'mores, all that happy stuff. I agree with you. It's you could find a lot of worse places to raise kids.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It really is a nice area to do that. And affordable, which is well, affordable as long as you took care of it, at least a few years ago. Nothing's affordable now as far as housing.
Man, the prices have gone up a lot. Not as bad as some other areas, but they definitely have gone up. Yeah.
Nashville is out of control.
Yes.
They've experienced way too much boom down there. Columbus is actually the fastest growing city in the country right now.
Is it really?
Faster than Austin and Nashville.
Yeah.
It's just because I think personally, and you tell me what you think, I think what you have is, so there's a ton of colleges there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you used to get kids that would come from New York, Philly, LA, whatever, Chicago, go to OSU, go to one of the other colleges there, and then go home or go wherever.
Mm-hmm.
Now everyone can do this. They can work the remote.
True. Yeah.
It's just cheaper to live out here.
Right.
You don't have to go spend all that. I liken it the same way to professional athletes. Used to be years ago, to become a brand or get a big notoriety, you had to be in New York, in LA, in Chicago, in Miami, something like that.
Yeah.
Now, with the social media, doesn't matter. Look at Giannis up in Milwaukee.
Yep.
He would never be that big of a star 30 years ago. No way. Most people wouldn't even know who he is.
Right. I feel like the baseball players have still a little bit harder time in the smaller markets. But football, definitely, I think it's much better. And I'm not a big basketball guy. I don't follow it closely, but I would agree with you. Yeah.
Okay. Pro basketball, not so much, although my oldest son loves it. College basketball, I am still very much an avid fan. I've got actually right to my left here, my front living room. I have 3 TVs set up in here. So when March Madness comes around, it's like that Saturday, I've actually filled my cooler and sat it next to my futon out here, and I've just got games on for 12 hours.
Oh, and you mean for people who haven't been to Cincinnati, the geography of the area is not so great. I mean, within an hour and a half of here, you've got UK, UC, Xavier, Dayton, Ohio State. I mean, and just it's an hour and a half to Indianapolis, and you've got Butler. I mean, it's a hotbed for that. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not my game, but it's a great place to be for college basketball.
Well, and I grew up, like I said, I grew up in Connecticut. I moved out here in 2006, like right before a month before my 27th birthday. So I grew up in Connecticut, where UConn Husky basketball is a religion.
Sure.
Like if you grew up in Connecticut and you weren't a UConn Husky basketball fan, not the football team.
Yeah.
But the basketball team, you were like, what is wrong with him? Like, you root for Syracuse? Ew, get out of here. You know what I
see,
mean?
that's something that's different about the Midwest. And I wasn't sure with the East Coast, but definitely different than California. Like in California, people are fans of the schools they went to, right? There's not a ton of Cal fans or UCLA fans that didn't go to those schools. And they're large schools, so they have, large alumni base. And when we moved here to, Cincinnati area, living in Northern Kentucky, the fan base for UK is crazy huge and so rabid. And so my wife and I are just assuming that, God, everybody here went to UK. And the answer is no, only like about 10% of them. But everybody's a fan of UK. That was really, it's very different. The college sports scene in the West Coast in California, it's just, I think it was good in the 50s and 60s, but getting into the 80s and 90s, it just went to pot.
Look at this from Keenan. Keenan says, did you guys know they run TV commercials here in the Philly area about moving to Ohio?
Oh, that's awesome.
I did not know that. And Lou Mancini follows it up. What? That is, well, because here you see like the commercials for like Asheville, North Carolina, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
That's wild. Keenan, if you could elaborate a little bit, like, are they giving you a specific area, or are they just saying Ohio? Because there are drastic differences. Where Mike and I are, wintertime it still gets cold, don't get me wrong, but we don't really experience all that much snow.
Right.
Mike will experience a lot more ice than I will over here on this side of the river.
Yeah, it's weird, huh?
But generally speaking, the winter weather precipitation-wise is nothing like what we would experience up in the Northeast.
No, not at all.
However, that's down here in the southwest corner of the state. Cleveland or Toledo, they will get all of your lake effect, all of your nasty blizzard type conditions that you guys experience in Philly.
Yeah.
So, Keenan, my question is, when that commercial comes on, are they preaching for you to just move to Ohio anywhere, or is it Southwest Ohio, Northeast Ohio? Like, what's the deal? Because there's a huge difference.
Huge difference. You like talking with different people over the last week or so with Northwestern's got that temporary stadium, set up right in the lake, and like, how cool is that? It's right in the lake, man. That would be really cool to go to the game there. Now, not 2 months from now, I can imagine playing a game there in November.
Look at Notre Dame. South Bend is right up there.
Yeah.
Near the lake like that. I mean, you go there in December. Hard pass. I'm good. No thanks. So there's a question for you, being a college fan. The new playoff alignment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my stance has been they made a mistake by only having 4 to start out with. They created their own problem every year when they had a 4-team playoff system with 5 power conferences, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's getting screwed every year.
Yeah.
Now they've gone to 12, and I've got another buddy of mine who's a huge college fan, big Buckeye fan, who thinks that's too big of a jump.
I'm definitely a fan of the expanded playoffs for sure. Every year, a team that should have been there ended up getting left out. I kind of felt Notre Dame, when they were in there, often didn't belong in there, and the scores, I think, kind of showed that was true. But I'm definitely a fan of the expansion. I'm okay with 12. See how it goes. Anything's better than 4. 4 was just bad.
4 was not enough.
Yeah.
4 was a joke.
Yeah. Now I still don't know 2 lost teams. I don't care if they lost the first 2 games of the season and won the next 10 by average score margin of 70. You drop 2, you don't belong in the playoffs. Yeah.
So did you see? So you know what the alignment is, right? So the top 4 get a bye, right? Mm-hmm. So your top 5 conference winners are automatic, and then it's 7 at large after that. The top 4 get a bye, so that's going to be Bama. Let's just go. I don't know, Georgia, Ohio State, whoever the hell wins the Big 12, and then whatever's left of the Pac-12, right?
Yeah.
What I like about it most, because I am not a Notre Dame fan, I don't like the elitist. I don't have to join a conference crap.
Yeah.
they can go undefeated and not get up. The highest they can be, the highest seed they can be in the current format is 5. That's the highest they can go because they're not in the conference.
Right.
And it makes me smile because I don't like them.
I'm down the middle on Notre Dame, kind of like I am with the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I understand that it can be good for the NFL when the Cowboys are doing well. And I think it's similar with Notre Dame, when they're doing well and they're in the mix, it brings a lot of fan base, brings a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't be watching into the mix. But I go back and forth, every once in a while I'll watch a rerun of Rudy or something like that. And it's cool. It's hard not to get wrapped up in, all the nostalgia and stuff, but yeah.
I agree. Although I mean, it's hard not to get wrapped up in nostalgia, right? When you talk about the Rudy movie, that's just a feel good flick. I mean, if you can't watch that and smile, I think there's something wrong. Maybe you're a little emotionally detached, right? Something's wrong. For me, it's about a program that really hasn't been national title worthy of a team in 35 years.
Long time.
Yet they still get treated as if they're in that class.
Right. The preseason polls, the early season polls. Yeah.
Well, then they go out and lose to Northern Illinois. Right? So Northern Illinois gets paid $1.4 million for that game to go to South Bend, and then they win.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That's just fabulous. I was listening to it while I was driving back from Miamisburg after my son's game on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I can hear it go. I'm like, oh, dude, I am going to be relentless on these Irish fans if this happens. And sure enough, damn.
That's one of the things that I still love about college football is weird stuff happens like that, right? Even not quite so extreme, but a team that's at the bottom half of the SEC will knock off an Alabama one year. You get those wacky things because at the end of the day, it's still kids out there playing. Even though the COVID 5th year and all that kind of stuff, it's still kids out there playing.
Unless you're Bo Nix, who's 30. But no, I agree with you. And I think you get the same with college basketball. I think just college sports overall, there's that extra little flavor. And I understand these guys are getting paid now and everything, but I do think it's still about, and they are getting paid, but it's not NFL contracts, right? So they're still hungry. They're still hungry, right? And you see that on the field. And I think that's what brings that sort of thing out is, I'm going to let it all hang out. This is my one shot at the national spotlight. I think just get a little extra flavor.
Being a parent has changed my attitude a little bit on that stuff also. I think, when you're a pro athlete, okay, you're fair game. You take the criticism, you're getting paid a lot of money. Not necessarily saying that I agree with a lot of the criticism that in the way it gets levied laid on some of these guys. But in college, I watch or listen to, some of the stuff on TV and the radio and, the criticisms and the way they're talking about some of these. I'm like, dude, that's somebody's 20-year-old kid. He's doing the best job he can. Give him a break, right? It's like I sometimes I think people as fans they have a hard time remembering they're just human beings. They're 2 years younger than your kid who graduated a couple years ago. Take it easy on them a little bit.
Let's look at my oldest. My oldest is 17, and then I turn and watch whatever game, and I'm like, Jesus. He's literally only 2 years older than my son, right? and he has a bad performance or whatever. And then I got to come on here every week and rip this kid apart because this is part of what I do, right? There is a part of you that's, unless he's a complete,
if they bring it on themselves, they bring it on themselves.
Yeah, they bring it on yourself. Again, I'll reference Tyreek Hill. Dude, just do what the cop asked you to do.
The video
the cop went too far.
Yeah,
the police went too far once he was out of the car. I totally agree.
Yeah,
but none of that happens if he just keeps the window down and just says, "Look, man, I'm Tyreek Hill. If you hold me up, we're gonna lose that game."
Yeah,
here's my stuff. But he didn't do that, and then the cops overreacted, and now it's a whole big mess again. So
yeah. No, I agree.
I hate that whole situation.
Yeah, I watched the whole video there last night, and it was a went about what I kind of expected. Yeah.
There's initial root cause of why it all went down, and then you have it compounded by, just abusing the badge a little bit there.
Sure.
It's the way I would put it. I think they
Yep.
went a little too far.
Yep. No, I agree. Yeah.
I try not to go. I toe the line very carefully with stuff like that when I'm on here, just because I don't want to rock the boat too much. I do have my opinions on certain things. I stay away from politics on here. I stay away from religion on here.
Yeah.
Outside of sports, those two things are the most polarizing things on the planet, right? So
It's hard. Yeah.
we just don't do it. Like, I'm on here talking sports. That's polarizing enough.
For sure.
I don't need to add Trump and Harris and and all this other nonsense. I don't need to. I don't know what they were talking about. I did not watch any of the debate at all on purpose.
Yeah,
because I knew it would be a disaster. What I told these folks prior to the show was the rest of the world looks at our politics as if it's the blue collar comedy tour.
It's hard to believe, that it is where it is. We watched, I don't know, the first 10 minutes and then turned it off because I was about ready to bark. My daughter texted me. She lives out in LA, went to school out. She went to USC, went to school out there, but I'm like, I turned it off. I couldn't take anymore.
Yeah. It's like overall we just deserve better candidates.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Like you got how many million people in this country, and these are the two people. Okay, whatever. I can't stand any of it. And I think what bothers me the most about it is the fact that people have gone like hysterical over it.
Mm-hmm.
You have people who literally like just hate each other just simply because look, when I grew up, I fully remember it being rude to ask someone who they voted for.
Yeah.
It was considered a rude thing. Now people purposely don't answer the question because they don't want to have 30 other people jump down their throat over it.
Right.
And I think it's just a shame as a society. Like, guys, you talk to your neighbors. Things really aren't as bad as they're telling you on the news.
No, I agree. And I mean, like, I like having philosophical conversations on that kind of stuff with people who disagree with me. I enjoy it. It's interesting. Usually learn something. I don't understand the people that can't do that with a level head and just immediately just fly off the handle. And it's like, oh, you voted this way. Well, you're this and you're that. It's like, no, I'm not. I just,
Well, so social media is to blame for all that. So what those folks do, and I grew up in Connecticut, which is about as true blue as it gets.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Ohio now in a suburb that is about as red as it gets. Right? So I've got friends on both sides of this thing. Okay. What I see happening social media wise is these folks will only speak to people who feel and think and talk the same exact way they do. So they just get agreed with all the time.
Yep.
And then someone else comes along and interjects a different opinion and they can't handle it.
Yeah,
because they've stunted their own growth mentally, really.
Yeah.
By closing off everything else.
No,
and somebody disagrees, and it's like,
yeah.
It doesn't have to be that bad. Like, just because I vote differently than you doesn't mean I have to hate you.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, it's almost impossible to have just a regular political discussion that you could have had 30 years ago. It's definitely different.
Yeah. And you can feel the tension almost immediately if they don't see things the way that you do.
Right.
You can feel it in the room. It's like, okay, you know what? Let's talk something else because that's it. This is not going to work. Right? We're going to end up in an argument, and that's not what we're here for, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
It's just it's a shame. It really is. As a society, I think it's a shame.
Yeah, agreed.
Keenan says there was no de-escalation on anyone's part in the Tyreek Hill encounter. I would agree.
Oh, totally agree. Yeah, no, the police officer could have handled that much better, especially the other players that came out of that that Suburban. Hey, all right, let's step over here. Sit down on the curb here. We'll explain to you what's going on. Then I'm going to need you to get back in the car and leave. But they did nothing to de-escalate it for sure.
No. Yeah. And then my friend Dave Connett he says Cam Rising is on year 7 in college. Oh my God. It's another one who's going to get drafted. He's going to be practically 30 years old. It's just I don't get it.
So before we start to wind down and wrap it up here, do you get out to many football games? Do you do any?
Not a ton. Where I'm at here in Bellevue, I'm a mile and a half from Paycor Stadium, the Bengals Stadium. I'm less than that to the Red Stadium. When somebody in the Reds hits a home run, I can hear the fireworks go off and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome. I grew up in the North Bay, so an hour north of San Francisco. So for me, big time sports were very separated. That wasn't part of, even though with Dick coaching and stuff, it wasn't part of our daily routine, right? I drive past both of those stadiums twice every single day. It's very different that way. It's cool. I admit it. It's neat.
Great American Ballpark is one of the most underrated stadiums in America.
I agree. Yeah.
My sons and I take a baseball trip every year. Together, we've seen 16 different ballparks.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, we got like a whole passport thing. I don't have it downstairs. We'll do that another time. But you get a stamp at every stadium you can go to, right? So it's a whole program that a gentleman who lives in Middletown invented. Great American Ballpark, and look. I mean, nothing's going to be Fenway or Wrigley or like PNC in Pittsburgh, or
right.
Camden Yards in Baltimore. But for what it is, Great American is a beautiful ballpark. It's just such a shame that more people don't go.
Yeah, it's easy to get in and out. It's comfortable. The sight lines are nice, especially if the weather's nice. It's beautiful to sit there in the evening and look out across the river and northern Kentucky. God, I really hope the Reds can get it together. I feel they're so close. They got so many. Ellie De La Cruz is just, I love watching that guy. Rhett Lauder, the new pitcher that has come up here, he's had 3 starts now. He's like an 0.67 or 0.87 ERA in his first 3 starts. They got so much talent, just haven't been able to put it all together. I won't get into my whole theory of what's wrong there in the leadership and stuff, but
we can do that another time. I've got my opinions on the Reds too.
Yeah. No, because this is a really good baseball area, right?
Oh, it's fantastic.
And St. Louis is also, and everybody talks about St. Louis fans are knowledgeable and stuff. Cincinnati is pretty damn close, and it's still, I know baseball isn't the sport with kids like it was 40, 50 years ago, but there is still a nice baseball community here, both at the community, the elementary school level and those leagues and stuff like Southwest Ohio League, and then into high school. There's really good baseball being played around here in high school. I would really like to see the Reds be able to capitalize on some of that, but so far it's been just another wasted year.
You mentioned before about Notre Dame and like the Cowboys and stuff. When they're doing well, it's better for the sport. I think the Reds are one of those teams too. They're not a big market like the Yankees or the Dodgers or anything, but I do think that like the Reds, the Orioles, the A's, when those teams are doing well, I do think it's better for the sport. So
I agree.
I'm not a fan, but I'll go. I'm not a hater either. You know what I mean? So,
no, I agree.
I do.
Yeah, the Reds seem to have a decent national following. Like, I can't remember who I was listening to. I was listening to a broadcaster or whatever, but they were talking about when they were at one of the games, when the Reds were out in LA playing the Dodgers, and sitting right in front of them was a dad and his elementary age kid, and the dad's in a Dodgers jersey and Dodgers hat, and the kid's in an Ellie jersey and a Reds hat, right, in LA.
Oh, well, De La Cruz has really brought in a lot of young fans.
For sure.
He's just a very exciting ball player. My friend Dave Connett would not agree to any of that, but it's De La Cruz, and he's young. He needs to get a little humble, I think. Maybe a little slice of humble pie. But he is getting better. And it's a little scary to think that he's getting better when he's already really talented.
Oh, you compare his stats at this point in his career compared to a lot of Hall of Fame style players. It's amazing. He's doing some great stuff, especially the extra base hits, let alone the steals. But
yeah. Well, it steals. I think the pitch clock and the bigger bases and stuff helps that a little bit. But that guy can flat out fly. Oh my God, he's fast.
So fast. When he was first up here and the first time he went a first to home kind of deal, watching him round second base the length of his stride.
Oh my God.
It's gigantic.
Huge. It's like he takes 3 strides and he's at the next pack. He's just flying around the bases. It's amazing.
Yeah. He's just fun to watch too. And I know they talk about it a lot in the media, but he's just always having fun. Always.
Yeah. It looks like he's constantly having a good time, which is really what you want, right?
Right.
You know, it's what you want to see. I think that would help attract youth. Is guys looking like they're having a good time.
Yeah.
Because baseball does struggle with that, mostly because they don't market their stars very well as a league.
Major League Baseball is its own worst enemy in so many ways. Yeah.
They totally are. And it's a shame because baseball was my first love.
Yeah. The commissioner is, I think, is a big part of that. Now, if my son were on here, he'd be railing against him right now. But it's
we've done that.
Yeah, he has not done that sport a lot of favors. Now, I think the speeding up the games and the pitch clock and stuff like that. I didn't grow up a big baseball guy. I didn't become a big baseball fan until we moved back here to Cincinnati. I love the 2 hour, 20-minute, and 2.5 hour games compared to the 3 hours and 15 minutes. It's so much better to watch.
Well, and you think about it, like my frustration with the pitch clock is not so much that it's there, it's the fact that it was necessary.
Right.
Because had the rules actually been followed and these guys weren't allowed to step out and do a Texas two-step in between every pitch.
Yeah.
And the pitchers weren't allowed to step off 80 times.
Walk around the mound and
none of this stuff would be necessary.
Yeah, agree.
But because they can't police themselves, they have to put in this rule.
Right.
So, my frustration is I love it. I can turn on a Yankees Red Sox game and it's not 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
It's Sunday night baseball started at 7 o'clock. I'm like, my God, I got to take a nap.
Yeah.
Or I'm never going to get it.
Yeah. No,
seventh inning stretch is like seventh inning snooze.
I love that part of it. Yeah, it's so much so much better. Yeah, it's like in college games, right? Where the pitcher just back to the pitcher, throw the ball, back to the pitcher, throw the ball the way it should.
Yeah, let's go. Come on, play ball. Come on, let's go. So you don't get to much football though, right?
Now, I'll usually
that's your thing.
Couple games a year. The Chiefs have been in town here quite a bit recently with the Bengals, and I don't know what it is with the NFL scheduling, but they are destined to play each other at least once every year now. This
like that Mahomes Burrow rivalry.
Oh, for sure. Bengals are in Cincinnati this week, but so when the Chiefs are here, go watch. The guy that owns our company, they have season tickets. He gave me a pair last year and went and watched the game, but a couple times a year usually. Yeah. It's a different experience for sure than watching on TV. Watching on TV is great with all the replays and the angles and stuff, but it's still nice to get in this, be in the stands and the fans and everything. And unfortunately, every time we go watch the Chiefs here, they lose.
So is that who you kind of attached to? Was Kansas City?
Yeah,
when it was all said and done, was the Chiefs.
Yeah, my son was a little kid when Dick was there, and he kind of hung on to him, and so I kind of stayed with them. And then especially once they got Mahomes, I'll admit my son's a massive sports fan, follows the details at all levels. When they drafted him, I didn't know that much about him, but he was like, "Oh, this kid's gonna be good. You just wait. He's gonna sit behind Alex Smith for a year and learn. He's gonna tear it up." And it's hard not to be a Pat Mahomes fan.
I know he's very talented, and he seems to be, his brother aside.
Yeah.
Jackson's a bum, but I could do without Brittany's mouth all the time. But Patrick himself, you just take him. He seems to be a pretty good dude.
Certainly seems like it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he sounds like Kermit the Frog and whatever. And I'm a Birds fan, so there's going to be a little bit of animosity there, but and overall, it's like if you just take him, it's hard to hate that dude, right?
Yeah.
Take all the surrounding noise, and it's like, yo, man, you gotta calm down with all this. But
yeah.
So, do you tailgate at all?
Not here in Cincinnati. I tailgated just a tiny bit of the game last year, but not here. When our son was going to South Carolina, loved tailgating down there. That's everybody.
College tailgating's a different
animal. On the West Coast, of course, I grew up. You hate Florida, hate Florida State, hate all those schools because it's not where you're from. And moving back here, everybody, you've never seen anything like the SEC. Never seen anything like the SEC. Oh, okay, yeah, I can picture it in my head. I can imagine it. The first time we went to a game at Williams-Brice Stadium down there in South Carolina, I'd been to 2 Super Bowls at that point. Never seen anything like it. The
Yeah.
game day in the SEC is like nothing on this planet. It's phenomenal.
I want to do the Tennessee one because they tailgate on boats.
Yes,
and I want to go do that.
Tennessee is that another hard place not to like. Knoxville is a great college town, a cool scene, awesome restaurants. And I have not been. I've been there for 2 baseball series, but I've not been there for a football series yet. But I've heard a lot of stories about all the Alabama fans that sail their boats up the river there, and they group them all together, and it'll be a group of 50, 75 boats, and it's like a massive party on the boat decks and stuff. Yeah,
that's what I want to go check out. I think that would be a lot of fun. My friend Keenan here has apparently I've tipped my hand a little too hard. He kind of sees where I'm going with this. So the Eagles come here week 8. Play Sunday, October 27th. I'm pretty sure it is.
Oh, okay.
Green Legion will be here. I will be downtown working on that one. Could I interest you in joining us for the tailgate?
Yeah, if I'm in town, I will absolutely join you guys. Yeah, for sure. That'd be fun.
Would be 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. is the tailgate.
Cool.
It's at a place called the Filson, which is on Freedom Way down there. You know where it's at, right?
Yeah.
It's a nice indoor-outdoor setting.
Okay.
The food spread is there's a Cincinnati chili bar, which I still think that stuff is weird, but whatever. Wings, all kinds of stuff. All you can eat, all you can drink for 4 hours.
No, absolutely. I appreciate it. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, and we've got Green Legion radio show. Our pregame show will air live from the Filson. So that'll be Quimby, our illustrious owner, myself, and I don't know who the hell else will join us. Probably our good friend Captain Demps.
Nice.
But yeah, it's always a good time. The food's always good. The atmosphere is fantastic. And even if you don't have tickets to the game or you're not interested, I don't have a ticket I can offer you to the game. We sold out of those in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But as far as the tailgate, we can definitely do something there if you were interested.
No, awesome. Yeah, I'm planning trying to schedule a trip to California right now. I need to go out there and take care of a few things. I may be out of town that weekend, but given my work schedule, it may end up getting pushed into the first or second weekend in November.
Gotcha. So yeah, it's Sunday, October 27th, and we'll keep in touch. I've got your number, you've got mine.
Awesome.
And you are welcome to come back in here anytime you want. You've been fantastic. This has been great.
We didn't end up talking too much about the Eagles in the old days and stuff, but yeah.
Well, no, you did. You went into that, but I didn't want you to feel like I was just asking you to come on here to pick your brain about your uncle either. You know what I mean? It'd be kind of rude.
No, I don't. I don't mind. It was a great time in Eagles history. I feel like it was a great time in my life. Extremely special experience. I don't mind talking about it at all. I tell my wife I got to be careful when I get excited about stuff that I'm passionate about. I can just ramble and keep talking for hours. But
so just to give you an idea, I usually do this by myself for an hour or so, and I make a little run sheet and I just go at it for an hour and a half. I am very much the same way. I will get off on a tear and just go down a rabbit hole on something that's not even on my run sheet. One of the guys will ask me a question on this. I'll just go off on a tirade. They've come to expect a rant from me every so often. I get a little fired up. Like if Jalen Hurts comes out this weekend and throws a couple more interceptions, next week's show might be a little rough.
yeah. That's a lot of changes there in Philadelphia. It's going to be an interesting season.
Yeah, it should be. I think the offense has a chance to be very special. I really do with the addition of Saquon Barkley. Provided everybody stays healthy and does their job.
Yeah.
I do think that they have a chance to be very special offensively. Defense, there's a couple of guys that we need to see a little bit more from. Nolan Smith, to me, is the key to the pass rush rotation. It's a make or break year for Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis. You got a couple guys on mercenary contracts, so there's some bumps and bruises. Most of the money is spent on the offensive side, which in today's game,
it's hard. Yeah,
it is. I keep seeing all these posts about people upset with the way Kenny Pickett played in the preseason. I'm like, guys, anytime a franchise feels like they have their franchise quarterback and they pay him that way, You don't then have $20 million to pay a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
So that's how you have to look at it. And of course, everybody's it's like they're playing the Madden video game with the salary cap turned off. Let's go get Russell Wilson. Let's go get this guy. Let's go. They can't just do that. It doesn't work that way.
It's just not like that anymore. Every once in a while, a team gets lucky, like the Bengals here when Burrow went down last year, and what's his face?
Browning.
Yeah, when he stepped in and played phenomenally as a backup quarterback.
I mean, there's been a few strokes of luck over the years. Most recently, Nick Foles.
Yeah, true.
You talk about lightning in a bottle.
Yep.
Jeff Hostetler with the Giants.
Yep.
Doug Williams with the Skins. Back in the 80s, right? Like it does happen. It's Frank Reich with the Bills. It does happen. It's just really, really, and now it's less likely because those quarterback contracts are so huge, and you have a salary cap. You just can't afford anyone who's really worth a damn.
Yeah.
Bottom line is, if the Bengals lose Burrow, if the Eagles lose Hurts, if the Chiefs lose Mahomes, if the Ravens lose Jackson, any of those things happen, you may as well write your season off.
Yeah, for
just
sure.
Don't have a competent backup to be able to compete with the rest of these guys.
Yeah. It seems like the Chiefs would be okay. They're not going to win the Super Bowl without Mahomes. Teams like the Ravens, that's a different story. I mean, Mahomes is obviously the heart and soul of that offense, but without Jackson, the offense in Baltimore is just a completely different story, in my opinion. I don't know how they'd come back from that. And he looked really good last week, I felt
he played well. In particular that last drive. I thought he played really, really well, which has not usually been his strong suit.
Right.
He just can't beat the Chiefs. He just can't do it.
It's hard. Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
But Mike, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me on.
And you are welcome here anytime.
Awesome.
If you want to follow us on YouTube, I'm on here every week. It'll be Thursdays for now because my son plays his games on Wednesday nights. And then I'll probably move back to Wednesday nights after that.
Okay.
The only time I won't do a Thursday is if I can't remember when the Eagles Thursday night game is.
Sure.
I don't know because if that happens, then Green Legion has the pregame show.
Sure.
So I would move to probably Friday at that point, which Fridays can get a little messy because I'll start drinking while I'm on. Things might go off the rails, but sometimes that's more fun.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, you're welcome here anytime, man. You've been really, really awesome. This has been a lot of fun. And,
same here. It's good talking to you.
Yeah, you too. Don't be a stranger, and I will stay in touch as well. And
sounds good. Hopefully see you down there at tailgate. Yep.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be fantastic. Mike, thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Take care, bud.
You too.
All right, guys. Well, he was fantastic, right? Fan Demand, how did you hear about the Green Legion? Would you tailgate with the Green Legion? I don't know. I don't understand. How did we hear about the Green Legion? This is a Green Legion radio show. This is a Green Legion radio podcast. So, I mean, if you're looking for information for tailgating with us, right there at the bottom of the screen, trips.greenlegion.com, go there and take a look, man. And jump on in. Get on board. Let's go. Yeah. Keenan Harmon, thank you, Mike. Please come back in the room soon. I agree. He was awesome. I would love to get him back on again when he's got the time. That was absolutely fantastic. And man, I mean, it's 20 after 8. This has been great. But we're going to wrap it up for the night. All right, folks. I'm not going to do any exit music. We're just gonna wrap it up. So I want to thank Mike, if you're still out there listening. Thank you again very much for joining us this evening. That was a lot of fun. And I'd really like to get you back on here. And I really also would like to, I hope you're in town for that tailgate. Would be awesome to get you down there with Green Legion. And maybe we can get you on the radio show too. See if you can't tell us a story or two. That's not my call. I'm just throwing around ideas. But for everybody who joined us in the room, thank you for being here as well. For all of you who I can tell are watching, but you choose not to chime in, that's okay too. Come on back again next week. We will be talking about week 2 of the NFL season and how the Birds fared on the Monday night.
And also, if there's any more laughing stock coming out of Cleveland or New York. We'll also be looking forward to the next morning when we fly to New Orleans for the Green Legion invasion of the Bayou. Until then, folks, this has been the Unhappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio and part of the Green Legion Radio family. Proudly brought to you by the beautiful ladies at Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club in Philadelphia. Call 215-467-1980. Have fun. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the games. Enjoy the game on right now. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Remember that Judge is not back in until Monday. And as always, folks, go Birds.